All right, we are rolling.
Ooh,
Counting us
that's
down.
so exciting.
3, 2. You're listening to Missing Out with Lex Michael and Tauri J. Let's start the show. Hey guys, welcome back to Missing Out. I'm Tauri J.
I'm Lex Michael.
And if this is your first time listening, what we do here is we introduce each other to different media, whether it be movies, TV, books, spoken word, experiences, things that have built us up as people, and we hope that it builds you up the way it has built us. We are the retrospective that is introspective.
That was nice. There was you saw a pothole in the road and you swerved around it. And for half a second, everybody was like, is it going to crash? And you didn't. And it was perfectly smooth back into that lane and on into the sunset.
Hell yeah. And now I'm in the sun. Hey, baby, I'm in the sun. And today we're joined by return guest Ruthanne.
Hello.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. If you're unaware of Ruthanne, she is the co-host of the Wiki Ship Down podcast. She is a longtime friend of Lex Michael's.
It's true.
And she is an overall cool person.
Aw, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and talk about this great show. Are we ready to go?
Oh, yeah. So, Ruthanne, you brought in the 2017 movie The Babysitter.
Directed by our old friend McG.
Yes.
McG, who, by the way, has a super odd career. Like
Very
a real
weird.
interesting two Charlie's Angels movies, a Terminator, We Are Marshall, and didn't he work on Chuck?
And he was the producer of Chuck, of Supernatural, and The OC.
Yep.
So fascinating filmography.
He goes where the money is, baby.
That ain't
That's
wrong.
what you got to do. So, can you tell us why this movie? We're gonna enter the pitch. Just
All right.
give us a little introduction.
Do you want a wildly self-aware, bizarre movie with an ridiculous soundtrack and a lot of actors who have done much better things? This horror movie is for you.
All right.
So
Yeah, I'm sold.
You sold?
McG is sitting in his car in traffic listening to this podcast right now going, hey.
I mean, he wasn't downed in that piece. He was just like, oh yeah, those actors have been in better things. He's like, I worked with the materials I was given.
I mean,
man.
my God, the lead was in 3 billboards out of Ebbing, Missouri. And then The Babysitter. So let me tell you a little bit about The Babysitter. It is
Please do.
the classic tropes of this is a genre film, popcorn movie. It's not the Maltese Falcon here. So the story is a babysitter of this kid named Cole, a little too old to have a babysitter, freshman year of high school, and his friend says clearly that this really attractive woman is having her friends over when you're asleep. So you should stay up and see what they do. And he says, that sounds like a plan. But it turns out they're murdering a bunch of people to basically use the Necronomicon to get satanic wishes. And then somebody gets run over by a car.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff happens in the middle, and then somebody gets hit by a car.
To the sounds of Queen's We Are the Champions.
Yes, that and shirtless Robbie Amell.
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts
good chunk of
about
this runtime.
Robbie Amell, who I keep calling Stephen Amell when I talk to people, and that is very wrong.
Yeah, he's the other one.
Yeah, that's the
Are
other
they
one.
cousins?
Yeah, they're cousins.
Yes.
Cousins, got it.
Green Arrow and the other guy from The Flash.
He was Firestorm for a minute.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was half a Firestorm, and then he was replaced by Jefferson
Jackson.
Hell yeah. So this movie, my main note for this movie is, who is it for?
That is a very good point that I actually can talk to.
Please do, because it's too mature for like kids who are the main characters, but like I feel like it's not like, and I guess I'm not a big horror enthusiast, so maybe that's where my disconnect is.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I feel like it didn't resonate with me as a grown person, because I can't be like, yeah, I also want to have sex with my babysitter.
Okay, so I completely understand where you're coming from here. It is, when I say it's a genre film, I do mean this is a movie for people who have seen way too much horror and just horror movies in general, both good and bad. So there are a lot of references that if you are in that kind of world, you'll hear, like, even if you're not, like at one point, when Robbie Amell's running around the yard shirtless for no reason, he's making the noises that you hear Jason make in the Friday the 13th movies, and he dies the same way that Jason dies. So this movie is basically for nostalgia throwback of anybody who really dug the really cheesy kind of early 80s horror movies. I mean, you have the quarterback running around shirtless and a cheerleader and just all of these things for people who just, if you have ever gone to a midnight showing of The Room or like Troll 2, this is kind of also for you. So the way I got introduced to this, it was my friend Donisha. I'm throwing her under the bus right now. The first like 25 minutes, I wasn't sold. And the level of ridiculous gore that starts up in the middle of the spin the bottle game is when I went, oh, okay, this is going to be an experience. Is it going to be good? I don't know. But in my heart of hearts, I had a good time. And that's what I think is what a lot of people are missing right now. Just a ridiculous good time. Also, it was weird to me that my Netflix queue didn't recommend this to me, because there's some weird shit on there. So.
As somebody who I think like you has watched a preposterous number of horror movies, both good and bad, I actually was able to find my way into this pretty quickly. It feels, almost like a super, super slick modern rendition of something like a schlocky, something you'd go see at a drive-in in the late 70s, maybe. And you've got, like the sort of text graphics that appear on screen and stuff feel very sort of 70s throwback to me. But interestingly, I feel like I was grabbed by it maybe a little bit more quickly than you were, Ruthanne, early on. And I don't want to talk about even the spin the bottle sequence forward any further without hitting the spoiler wall real hard.
I already did in my first 4 seconds, but continue.
So no. That, you know what? That's just some breadcrumbs to lead them to the rest of the spoilers. They're like, wow, those spoilers sound spoilery as fuck. I love it.
Can't wait. Oh yeah.
But even early on, when you see the two characters bonding and they bond over the like putting together your dream sci-fi exploratory team or adventure squad, whatnot, and the way they bond over that felt very much like the type of conversation loosely that I have with friends. So I felt at home. I felt like, oh, okay, these folks speak my language. And then we arrive at the spin the bottle sequence, and I went, oh, okay, great, more of that. Just so much more of this. Just more stuff that does that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I wasn't taken right away, but it definitely, that scene was a helpful one. But then later on is when I was like, okay, I'm in this now. So I get you.
Also, seeing Ken Marino show up as the dad and Leslie Bibb as his mom was fun. Yeah. And that bought more investment time from me. Because when they pop up, I'm like, oh, great. If I was going to check out, I'm back in for at least another 5.
I mean, I did really like the way the interaction between the parents and the kid, it seemed very natural. Like the moment where where she's working in the under storage of the house, and he's like, "Mom, am I a pussy?" And she takes a moment to really register the words he's saying, and she's like, do you know what that means? It felt like a very specific parent moment, which I thought had a nice genuineness to it. I think a lot of, and I think it's carried over a lot because of the main character whose actor's name I forget at the moment.
Yeah, Judah Lewis is the actor and Cole is the character.
Yeah. And the titular babysitter is played by Samara Weaving, who is the niece, I believe, of Hugo.
Oh, cool.
First place I remember, she did a bunch of work in Australia before anything I had seen her in. First time I remember seeing her was season 1. She did 3 episodes of Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yes.
Okay.
But she was working for a handful of years before that in Australia, and she's been working constantly since.
This was the first time I had seen her. She, for a second, I thought it was, she played Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man. What's her name?
Oh.
Haley Stanfield?
No.
No, I'm sorry, Emma Stone. I'm thinking like in Spider-Verse.
No. Yes. So, I thought it was Emma Stone for a second.
Okay.
Because they both have those big, giant, doughy eyes. And when you see Emma Stone as a blonde, like, they look just alike.
Oh, that's a good point.
Okay.
I could see that. Yeah.
Could see that.
You seem incredulous, Lex.
I
Yeah,
could
what's
see
wrong, Lex?
you being like, oh, are y'all related? I don't know if I could see, oh, y'all are the same person.
I don't need you to be incredulous.
No. No, we're putting a stop to this right now. The buck stops there.
That's the hashtag incredulous.
Incredulous hashtag. I am for it. I am following it. I am making it a thing on my podcast.
What's great about that is it creates this immediate feedback loop. That's like a perfect circuit because I start as incredulous. That hashtag is formed, which in turn makes me more incredulous, which in turn feeds the hashtag.
Right, of course.
And it's a perfect circuit. It's a machine that'll create enough energy to power the planet for generations.
So it's kind of the Hulk situation, kind of.
It's just like that.
Yep, just like that.
Just like that.
Got it.
Yep.
It's okay. Also, Tauri, I'm with you at a certain degree because I thought Chris Wilder was Thomas Lennon for the first good half hour of the movie, which is the neighbor dad. Like that's not Thomas Lennon. That's that's the guy from Joe Dirt. That's different. He's not one of the ones I was referring to as in a better movie earlier. Anyway.
No, this was the best he could get. That's what you were saying, right? No. So I feel like, just to kind of circle back, I feel like a lot of the genuine interactions are because of how well Cole acted against all of his his co-stars.
Yes.
So I definitely felt like I understood his perspective on the babysitter and his feelings when it comes to his parents and things of that sort. Like, I really liked that aspect of it, and it really sold the rest of the movie for me for the most part in terms of like how he dealt with this situation.
Yeah, I actually would say I think Ken Marino and was it Leslie, the mom and dad, that literally their build is mom and dad. With Cole is like it's so organic, and even Ken Marino when he's playing when he's teaching him to drive, it's like they're very aware of their son, and you can tell that there's a past. Like, okay, he's an anxious kid. Oh, we'll give it another. It's all right. It'll be fine. Which is great for later on, particularly when I love Ken Marino and Leslie. Oh, God, I can't remember her name. I can't think of it. But Nib, thank you. There's a cut scene to them later on, which is just such a couple moment in terms of, did you put the knife in the dishwasher? Because it's supposed to be in the butcher block, but it's in the midst of this gory moment where they're just at a hotel. I'm just going to say Ken Marino's getting a hand job while this is happening.
Just absently, like he's absently receiving it and she's absently
she's like scrolling Instagram and they're not even looking at each other. By the way, did you put that in the butcher block? No. And their son is fighting for his life trying to find this knife. But
what I will say is that I really love the most about the parent characters, though, is that it feels like they, in a subtle way, it's like it's not part of the purpose of the movie necessarily, but they subvert a lot of the hacky, tired mom and dad tropes in a movie like this. Like the vacant hand job, right? Like you would assume that this couple is kind of tired of each other and their marriage is maybe loveless and there's not a whole lot there. But the two of them still play as pretty connected. Like neither one of them seems unhappy with the other. Neither one of them seems unhappy with their son, right? Like they seem like they could very easily have gone the route of, especially with an actor like Ken Marino who could play something like this in his sleep, the modern dad who tries too hard to be the cool dad in a way that's super obnoxious and borderline oppressive.
Yes.
And in fact, it seems like both of them are pretty much on top of their shit. And like they're, the son is always going to think his parents are a little dorky or whatever, but I like that they don't do that, and instead they create this relationship that, especially in a horror movie, felt super refreshing to me, though it was a relatively minor part of the movie.
Yeah. And part of that is also credit to the writer whose name I forgot.
Brian Duffield. He's only written. It's like so this and something else. It's like
Brian Duffield.
Yeah, it's like I think he did Divergent as well. But anyway, sorry.
Well, now Brian Duffield sitting in traffic listening to this podcast, like these assholes.
I'm calling McGee.
Whatever. I was giving him a shout out. Like it's in the text.
Cut to McGee in his office, and Duffield's standing right there, and they're both listening to the podcast. And Duffield's like, "See?" And McGee's like, "What the fuck?"
I'm sorry, guys. If there's anything that I've proven in this podcast, it's that names are not my specialty. Names are my, like, if I were Superman, it would be my kryptonite. I'd have all the powers in the world, and someone would be like, "What's my name?" And I'd be like, "Oh no, I'm dying."
Oh God. Social anxiety is in fact your kryptonite.
Yeah, it kills me.
That's too real. I feel it.
But yeah, so it's a lot of that feeling of the parents is in the original text. Like, so this script was was on the, I believe it was the 2014 blacklist of like greatest unproduced screenplays. So I wanted to kind of go in, and I just read the first like 20 pages or so just to get a feel for the writing, and it's very well written, especially the asides. Like, they're very I guess freely spoken, and it feels like someone just telling you a story. It's very fun. But in the car scene, for example, the difference between the script and the movie is that Cole actually starts driving. And once he starts driving, he asks his dad point blank, he's like, "Are you and mom getting a divorce?" And the dad is like, it's a cute interaction where he's like, "You wait until you're driving," and Cole basically says, "Well, if I don't like the answer, I'll just drive into Bloomingdale's."
That's a joke that absolutely should have been in the film.
I agree. It's a really good one. And so then the dad starts talking about how he doesn't think they're getting a divorce, but like keeping their love alive like takes effort, and it takes work, and that's what they're doing. Is the mom likes hotels, and so they're going to these hotels to make her happy. And so like there's this like undertone of like a couple that's really trying to work hard at this marriage.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to cling on to the positive part of that, and that they're working on it because I like them. And
what was the negative part?
I don't want them to get divorced.
They're not
I will drive
divorced.
into a Bloomingdale's, sir. Love will be dead for me as a concept.
Will many people in Bloomingdale's. I love that, and I love that interaction and how genuine it is. But I can understand why it didn't make the final cut. Because it sucks, but it doesn't really fit with the rest of the film. Because it feels like, and I think you just proved this, because I always thought about that, is that the parents seem to have been cut out of the movie a lot. Like, there was more to it, but they are so good at projecting that implication anyway, because as actors, that I can see why I would have watched an extra 20 minutes of that movie for them. But yeah.
Right. And also, if he had been driving in that earlier scene, it would have really undercut the big climax where he finally gets the courage to drive through the house. And so, like,
much like a Bloomingdale's.
Exactly. They just decided to switch it up a little bit. You know how that happens in the editing room. They're just like, you know what? This house looks like a Bloomingdale's. Let's have them do it at the end.
Yeah. I was disappointed. I was disappointed when they famously cut out the driving into Bloomingdale sequence from The Lion King.
Oh yeah, it really would have changed the whole context. That's actually how Mufasa dies.
Yep, that's Scar just drives a bunch of cars through this fucking Bloomingdale's in a canyon.
Yeah, it's just like Dunsany when they're referencing Hamlet. It's the Bloomingdale's of Hamlet, and it's fine. Oh God.
So we touched on it earlier, this aspect of the occult being brought into this fairly, like, what at the beginning felt like just a wholesome movie about a kid who had a crush on his babysitter. And then it does a complete 180 into Goreville. And I feel like the tone shift is really, it was weird for me, but I think it's definitely meant to be striking, in that you find out that this babysitter has been sacrificing people in order to fulfill their wishes. And it essentially turns into this, like, I feel like that's where the comedy starts popping in, where you get all these like fun little bits.
Yes.
And I think that is the thing that I enjoy the most, are the bits, like when he gets caught and he's cutting the rope and they're like, yo, we can see you. And he's like still going. She's like, oh, look at him, he has so much spirit. Like, those bits I think are the things that resonated with me the most.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the bits are what held this flick together, because when it started to slow a little bit, you have a moment like when, God, I just lost his name in my brain, Robbie Amell is hunting this child, and then the bullies of this child are egging the house, and he stops mid-murder to go, wait, is somebody egging your house? No, you stand up to them right now. Because he plays a sociopath. Everybody else wants their wishes fulfilled, and he's like, hell yeah, let's go do some murdering. You never actually hear what his wish is, if you notice that. Everybody else is like, I want to be a journalist, I want to be a musician. Not him. You never hear what he wants.
It just seems like he's super gleeful to have a reason to kill people.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is a bummer, because he doesn't actually get to do the initial killing. Like, now he's like, if Cole hadn't escaped, essentially, he'd just be hanging out in the back being like, yo, you guys like my abs?
He was gonna eat that guy.
Yeah,
that's what he was waiting to eat. That guy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's how he stays so jacked.
He's a man whose blood has been replaced with A1 steak sauce. Like, he is not a real human being. That's not possible, because that's another moment.
That's true.
Where Cole says, why are you shirtless? And he goes, and it's never brought up again. It's bits like that keep this together. Just when it slows down.
I was reading a bit about the movie, and how when they have that wide shot of all of the people who are part of this cult, they use it to display how the bad guys are the inverse, in that, like, these specific stereotypes are usually the protagonists, or at least the fodder for traditional horror, and now they're the bad guys, which I think was a nice way of flipping that on its head.
Yeah, and that too is where I feel like if you are a horror fan, if you are a frequent connoisseur of that genre and the subgenres therein, there's a lot more to this movie to derive enjoyment from, as far as taking all of these tropes and finding little ways to invert them, whether it's the complete character dynamics and their relationships to each other, or moments like what you were describing about how they could see him cutting himself out of the rope. Like, fun moments in context, fun subversive moments in context, but within the genre as a whole, bigger inversions, and I feel like that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree.
It's very fun, and if you can pick out, I'm interested to hear both of your sides, because I know Lex has watched a fair amount of horror, good and bad, and I had no idea if you had or not, Tauri. And it's interesting to hear the other side of that. I haven't watched as much, but here are some good dynamics, because it's hard to come out of having been, I can't recall how young you were when you started watching stuff like this, Lex, but I was far too young, like Poltergeist at like
Same.
6 kind of thing. And
I grew up on the Chucky movies, like I started seeing that shit before I was double digits in age.
Yeah, same. It's the type of thing where I've, midnight showings were my jam. It still are, but the ingrained ridiculousness of all of this stuff, I forget. So So hearing from the other side is good to know. It's like, oh right, yeah, the guy getting just like hung by just like Jason from Friday the 13th is not something you would have expected if you haven't seen these flicks. Like, I can hear him doing the kiki ma ma ma, and I'm gonna expect there's gonna be a Jason reference in a second. but that's just different.
I mean, but even before that, right? Like when the big turn happens in that spin the bottle scene, all of a sudden Homeboy's got 2 knives in his skull.
Yes.
And it's an abrupt pivot. But that's the sort of thing that I was, especially once I realized, okay, this is a super slick, glossy version of that thing, I started to feel out what was going to happen, not exactly what was going to happen, but what was going to happen when. So I was expecting a turn like that at some point because I'm conditioned to expect a turn like that at some point, and probably because of how slick the movie is, something probably super gory. But yeah, if you're not primed for that, if you're not sitting there waiting for that specific moment from the jump, I would imagine that would be a little jarring.
I mean, so my background is that when I was a kid, I was a coward, weak baby boy. Who, yeah. So, for example, my parents were watching, I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with
Dream Warriors,
where they're in the dollhouse.
Yep, that's
and
3.
At some point, one of the like rugs, there's like a runner in one of the rooms, and it comes alive and it eats someone or something.
Yeah.
And we had a runner that was similar, and I could not walk in my living room for a while.
Whoa.
I turned off like Nemo in Dreamland, because I don't know if you guys have seen that movie.
I don't know what that is.
Nope.
It's an animated movie where the whole thing takes place in this like fun dreamland. Everyone's having a great time, and then at a certain point, all the like nightmares escape, and it becomes this hellish landscape of darkness. And I had to turn it off, and I hadn't seen. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Maybe I'll bring it on the show one day.
All right.
But yeah, I had to turn that one off, and I didn't watch it until I was an adult. So I wasn't a big horror guy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, so like, and I guess like now I'm more a kid, I guess, used to horror things and thrillers and things of that sort. So I don't like have to turn anything off midway. But yeah, so those tropes and things aren't as ingrained in me, in that like I feel like the first horror movie I was able to appreciate was Scream, and it wasn't even like a traditional horror movie in that it was a satire.
That's great, because it's actually, I feel like this leans more towards Scream than other horror movies, in the way that it is tongue-in-cheek, but it's still fucked up. If that makes sense.
Yeah, able to comment on horror movies while also being a horror movie, having that additional meta level of self-awareness that Scream has, for sure.
Yes. And I feel in this flick that Cole is the meta self-awareness for the audience, because there are many moments where he is just stopped, and at one point, I believe his next door crush, she kisses him before some major plot point, and he just stops, and you're expecting him to maybe say something like "my first kiss," blah blah blah, the thing you expect, and he just dead eye says, "The last time I saw a guy get kissed, he got stabbed in the head." And it's moments like that where this kid is clearly the smartest person in this film, a very good actor in this film, and it does lean more towards the Scream style ridiculousness. But that makes sense. This is I don't know what else to say. I love it. It's a very weird movie.
No, I mean that's one of my notes. It just says this movie's fucking weird.
Which is interesting because, and I guess my tastes now, I feel as an audience member a little bit jaded, so my tastes frequently run to, I guess, what most people would consider a little bit more bizarre. But this movie didn't feel, I mean, yes, I get very much why somebody would look at it and the word weird would come to mind, but none of this seems, even in its extremity, too far beyond the pale for me. But that's probably a commentary on me.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, Lex, this is a commentary on us, because when they started calling the sacrificial lamb of the Spin the Bottle kid Dead Samuel casually, I was laughing so hard. Because that was the first moment where I really started laughing, or just casually like, "Oh, get him off of me! Put Dead Samuel in the garage!" Like, it's just, damn it.
I guess like as a point of reference, right? I'm the guy for whom like Eraserhead is actually super accessible.
Oh no!
If that No, right, but like I could actually, I'm gonna make Tauri. We're gonna do Eraserhead at some point on the show because it's once you penetrate it. I don't like that word choice. Once you
get inside,
once you
find your way in,
once you fit them guts.
Once you feel the warmth of its gross embrace,
after being very respectful and getting consent, and driving through a Bloomingdale's, no, once you find your way in, right? Because I could, that's a movie for sure I could see being impenetrable for a lot of people. But once you find your way in, it's actually relatively straightforward. But I bring it up only to illustrate, my tastes tend to hew a little bit stranger, perhaps, because nothing makes me happier than watching a movie and going, oh wow, I haven't seen that before, or I have seen that before, but what an interesting way to show that to me. So a lot of the stuff that reads as weird, quote unquote, to a lot of people just reads as, oh hey, look at that, that's not what I would have expected them to do. Good for them.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that.
I want to talk about B as a character.
Yes.
Because around the end we get this reveal that like Cole's not the first kid that she's wooed and used their blood as a thing. So like you have to assume that she's had multiple wishes granted. But what do you guys think that those wishes were? Like do you think that she was just like a tiny hunchback monster person, like she was a literal goblin and then was like, you know what, I want to look like a rad teen?
Well, didn't she say at one point that one of her wishes was to be hot?
I think so.
Does she? Yeah, I think she does. I think honestly, Bee's back. That was one of the commentaries I had, that I would love to hear more of Bee's backstory, because clearly one of her wishes had to be eternal youth, because or something like that, because if he's not the first, she's definitely been that age and that looking like that for a long time, to the point where she might even be a straight up demon. Did you guys stay through the end credits?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's reason to believe she has and they don't call it the Necronomicon. It's just the Satanic Verses. I call it the Necronomicon because it basically is. Just how did she get this book? Where did she find it?
You know what? I'm really glad that you brought up that little tag on the end of the movie, because until you did, I had completely forgotten about that little tag where they find the body and she zombies at him for a second.
Yeah.
I forgot about it because it feels like a scene from a totally different movie.
Exactly.
And you're right. That moment does pretty heavily, because before that moment, like, yes, clearly she's been at it for a while, but for all we know, it's just been a really busy year. But that moment completely recontextualizes everything that came before that, it would seem.
And if I'm reading way too much into it, because I love to do that, her whole thing, she might not have given a shit. The whole thing might have been a demon, a trickster demon playing with these teenagers. Right. You know, it could be something like that, and needing the blood of the innocent for something else, but I want more of Bee's backstory, and that setup was definitely for a sequel that will probably not happen, because I believe it got some pretty terrible reviews.
Yeah, I don't remember this movie being super well received, which is interesting to me, because I think as far as what it seems to be attempting to do, it's doing it pretty well. Also, for all we know, all of the teens in this group are goblin people, and if there was a second post-credit scene, you'd see, Bella Thorne get up and be like, ouch, and then you see, like, the dude get off the floor and, like, try to pull the chunk of glass out of his neck, and then Robbie Amell wakes up and he's like, somebody get me down from here. Like, we don't know. I guess it is equally possible. I
mean, in every film, everybody could secretly have been a goblin at one point.
That's a good point. Yep.
Citizen Kane. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, they were all there. Charles Foster Kane was a Skrull. That's what it was. It's actually Citizen Kane was the first movie about the Kree Skrull War, but they had to cut a lot of that out. But if you know that going in, it's there.
Right? Yeah, it's all there.
They're all the Skrull. Oh God, that is Marvel's downfall. The Skrull. That was a rough arc. That was a rough arc, my dudes. Anyway.
Oh, wait, you haven't seen Captain Marvel yet, have you?
No, that's gonna. I've been
we gotta
crazy busy this weekend, but no.
We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about that picture after you see it, because they do some interesting stuff.
I'm pumped.
I actually felt like I didn't. I felt like the post credits thing, because I really liked that scene between Bee and Cole while she was dying.
Oh.
I felt like it undercut it a little bit in that I liked that they had established all these like fun things for them to do that like that established their relationship, and they were able to kind of do a sweet little callback as she's dying, and there's this moment where she's like, "Yo, man, you're such a shy kid. I'm so proud of you. You drove a car into me. You've grown so much." So I liked that so much, and so for her to just be like, "I'm also a goblin," thing, made me sad.
Oh, okay, yeah, I get that. She does say at one point that he's different, and that could be implied. It's like, you say that to all of your sacrifices. I don't know. Maybe it was he's different. And that moment was incredibly sweet, and does say it's to the credit of the actors that make these connections, because Bee and Cole and his parents, that those are the big relationships of the flick. And you're right, it was a really sweet moment when she's dying under the car that he drove into her to the sound of Queen.
Yeah,
We Are the Champions. It's a sweet. That's how I want to go.
I do though. I like. Good God.
That can be arranged.
Yeah, I like.
Do you have a Bloomingdale's near you?
Oh, why I happen to.
There's no more honorable way to die than driving through Bloomingdale's. That's terrible. I do though. I brought it up earlier. I really like this game that they play with each other, where they're stacking their super squad together, and I love the fact that he goes with Adama for command. Sweet, and I like that they've put Edward James Olmos's likeness in there.
Yeah,
that was cute and stuff. Who would you, if there was one person you would need? One, I'm not gonna make you do 6 or 7. If there's one person you would need on your super squad to get your shit done, who would you absolutely need on that squad?
Oh, this is hard. I might have to say Gamora.
Okay.
I feel like Gamora can get shit done. Look at how she maneuvers Star-Lord when she needs to. She can fight, she can think, she can get shit together, but she's good in a team too. Yeah. So I think I'm going with Gamora.
Okay, legit, Tauri.
Ooh, that's hard. I think that I would choose Nightwing, because he's as resourceful and has the same combat skills as Batman, but he also has like a heart, and he's not going to just be a dick to me the whole time, even though he's already a dick. Am I right, guys? Am I right, guys?
Hey. But like he wouldn't be a dick because y'all are on the same squad.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So he's tactical, he is practical, and he has a crazy network he can bring in to if I need other things. See?
Oh, that's a good point.
All right, solid.
What about you, Lex?
All right, what about you?
Thanos. That dude has all the Infinity Stones, and he beat up all the Avengers. If we're talking about somebody who can get shit done, dude snapped his fingers and wiped out half of all life in the universe. If that is not getting shit done, I don't know what getting shit done looks like. I'm gonna be on the squad with that guy.
Hey, Lex, he's not the most loyal guy in the world.
I don't know. He liked his buddies. He liked Ebony Maw and stuff.
Yeah, but like, you're not partners. You are his servant at that point.
Now we're on the same squad.
Yeah, but he's your daddy. He's your squad daddy.
I mean, he could be team captain for sure. I'm just like, what squad do I want to be on to get the most shit done? It's probably the squad that has all the Infinity Stones.
Got it.
I don't think he becomes team captain at that point. I think he becomes team overlord, and you're dead. You're straight up dead. I don't understand how this is a question.
I don't know. I feel like if I survived the snap, I'd be all right. He just hangs out on a porch now for the most part. But it's like if
He's
I'm like,
retired.
if I'm like, yo, Thanos, we gotta go bust some POWs out of prison. He'd be like, hell yeah, straps on the gauntlet, drives through Bloomingdale's and shit.
But I feel like you'd have to have one of those classic scenes where he's like, I'm out of the game. And
he's on a porch playing dominoes, like, you can't pull me back in.
Yeah. But then you got to make it personal, find someone he loves, kidnap them, and be like, guess you're back. Guess you're back, Thanos.
Well, I'm not kidnapping somebody because then I'm not on the same squad anymore.
Well, you got to arrange it so his person is kidnapped. That way, like, you can manipulate him.
First of all,
it's a double agent thing.
Yeah.
First of all, I ain't crossing this dude. Second of all, that violates the entire spirit of the arrangement.
Lex, you're unscrupulous. You're
a wild card.
Yeah.
Clearly, I have no qualms about getting my hands dirty.
What was that? Hashtag Incredulex? Was that
it is. There it is. The perfect feedback loop.
If you guys could sacrifice some innocent blood and a person, what would be your wish?
Ooh.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I mean, like today or like the last one I did.
Both. Let's do.
Okay.
Yeah, let's assume that you're willing to kill a whole bunch of kids.
Yeah, like
willing to kill again. Okay.
You get addicted to those wishes, baby. You're like, oh man, it's like when you're getting tattoos or
that's a good
or
point.
like plastic surgery. You're like, yo, man, I could always use another tuck. Let me just get one of those kids, become a babysitter.
I think I would wish to not be a goblin person.
Oh,
I think that's what I have to do, because that's the first wish you got to do. Everybody's got to get out a goblin person, and then you get your normal wish.
Right. That makes sense.
So I guess I'm not going to be a goblin person, and then I don't know. Maybe my student loan debt goes away. I'm a simple woman. I don't need much.
Isn't that telling though? I feel like a lot of my immediate concerns might be financial as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm not at immediate risk of starving, but I could be at less risk of starving.
Yeah, that's where I am. All right, Tauri, what's your wish post goblin?
I would wish for conjuration magic so that I don't need to work anymore because I can just make things that I need appear.
Oh, I didn't know we could get magic. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Then you could just make money happen too.
I mean, well, then I'd be ruining the economy, though.
Where's the ceiling on this, though? Because at a certain point, why not just wish for be God?
Because I like a god.
And also, you're talking to Satan. He'd take that as like a slight. You're talking about his ex there. Like, it's no fun.
That's true.
That's a good point. That's a good point. He'd be like, oh, fuck you. Why you gotta bring that shit up?
That is such a one-sided book. He does not even talk about what really happened.
I mean, I feel like as long as it's something that can be fairly contained in a pact, like you can't be like, I wish for world peace, then I think that like it's outside of his power. But if it's something that you can then utilize, then maybe.
Now, do we think this is a monkey's paw situation too, where like or like, the Twilight Zone, like you get to be alone and you can read, but your glasses break? Like, is something gonna happen? Like, if I don't want my student loan debt to go away, all of a sudden, like, my house catches on fire? You know what I mean?
Or like, if you wish for eternal youth, you regress to a literal baby and you're stuck in that form for all time.
I mean,
my God,
right?
It can't be though, because like those situations, there's no upfront payment. So the payment is your misery. In this economy, you're like doing a transactional, whereas like the other way, it's more like putting it on your credit card and you're paying it over time because of your sadness.
Oh God! If that was the case, my currency would be very high. Blood and sadness. I'm a woman. That would work real well.
Yeah. Well, make some pacts, baby. You're behind.
I don't know if I know anybody that innocent, but I can try. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. You just got to become a babysitter. That's what it is, or a nanny, I guess. At this point, just live in there.
God, no, I don't want to clean up all the blood. I give up. I give up
it.
easy.
That's it. My first wish then would be, I wish that somebody would come and clean up all the blood every time. So really, we'd need 2 kids for the first one, because like I'm not gonna waste my only wish of the day on that. So I'm gonna be like, I'll be like, you come here, clean up all the blood every time. You're on call now, but stand there because we're doing another one. We're doing we're doing a money one.
One traumatized Mary maid shows up.
Yes, no.
Not him again.
That's her catchphrase. Oh no. Like that's the line. Everybody, like when they make T-shirts, it's her picture.
Right.
And under it, it says, "Oh no." Talking keychains
What is
and
it?
shit.
Is it Mrs. Doubtfire? What voice was that?
It was that.
There's a lot of blood theory.
It's demonic Julia Child.
Oh, cool.
Delicious blood.
How much do you guys think that they were allowed to improvise in this movie? There were some scenes where I think it was specifically from the like YouTube stars where we just got some like real long improvised bits. And I wonder if that was like they were just like, look, here's the general gist of the scene. You go, you do your thing. You got blood splattered in your face. Tell me about it. Or if all of that was in the script as well. It makes me wonder.
I think Bella Thorne just forgot her script a little bit there and just starts just screaming about her boobs periodically. I think none of that was meant to happen.
I like to imagine that she was actually supposed to die from the gunshot, but she just kept getting up and screaming about it. And they're like, all right,
we gotta make our day. We just have to roll with this now.
When I was looking up her other credits, because I only know like a little bit about Bella Thorne, she is in a movie called Bella Thorne, bitch, I'm Bella Thorne. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think she just kept getting up. And,
so is she is she the most self-aware or the least self-aware? Do we know? I don't know. Obviously, I know of Bella Thorne, but I don't think I'm necessarily the target demographic for a lot of what she appears in.
Okay.
So what do we know about her level of general self-awareness as it translates to the audience?
I'm sure that she's pretty self-aware.
She dated Tana Mojo, and they don't seem like stable humans.
What's a Tana Mojo?
Oh, it's one of those little gigapet kind of things.
Now Tana Mojo sitting in traffic like, what the fuck? I'm calling McG. Cut to McG's office. Duffield and this dude are both in the office listening to the podcast with McG, and McG's like, what the fuck?
Oh my god. I love how you've leaned into your old man persona of I don't want to know who these people are. I don't care at all. I'm just
well, no, it's like it's not even that, and because obviously culture keeps developing and being created, so there's always going to be new, young, hip people. I just occasionally I'll hear a name and I'll go, oh, I haven't seen them do anything, but I am vaguely aware of what I am meant to know them from, like Bella Thorne. I don't know this. What do I know this other person for or from?
You absolutely wouldn't. She's from YouTube and she does some random ass makeup tutorials and story time.
Yeah.
You are 1000% not her demographic.
No.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody's into something.
Not everything has to be for me.
Yes, not everything has to be for you, cis white man.
Not all of it.
Just most of it.
Just
as much as possible.
Just most of what's ever been made.
I mean, I think that
because it makes me uncomfortable, I refuse to call Captain Marvel anything but MCU Origins Nick Fury.
No.
Great. It's a joke. It's a joke, by the way. I don't call it that.
He calls it Captain Marvel's a man, goddammit.
I call it stupid girl movie for cucks.
It's Captain for a reason.
It's like, that one doesn't even make sense.
No, not at all. My point exactly, Lex.
I don't call it that either. I
love
swear I don't call it that.
Everybody send cyberbully Lex at the Lex Michael on Twitter.
It's not true. Oh no! I'm quoting that character. Oh no!
So yeah, that's the baby. Sorry, did something just broke in my kitchen? I'm sorry if you heard that.
Oh no!
Do you need to check
No,
in?
it's
Yes,
fine.
everything okay?
It's fine. Somebody's just breaking into my house to sacrifice me. Don't worry about it.
Oh, I wonder what their wish is gonna be.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah.
The maid. Oh no!
I mean, I do see a car coming towards my window, but that shouldn't be a problem.
This isn't a Bloomingdale's.
Our favorite reference from the movie wasn't in the movie.
The kid gets out of the car and he's like, "Oh, damn! I guess it's not a Bloomingdale's, huh?" Shit! He tries to back the car out. The car's upside down.
But I need new jeans.
It's like 7 inches of snow outside my house, so he needs help pushing it.
It's like, hey, do you wanna help? Oh, you're dead. Yeah, whoops.
Oh my god.
She's like, or am I? Oh, wink. Oh, wink.
I do say that when I wink.
Yes, of course. As you how else are
wink.
people going to know?
Too subtle otherwise.
Oh god.
All right, so we got to start wrapping. So, yo, what is this?
I was waiting.
What are your last thoughts about this movie? What is the last thing you want us to see?
What?
It's time to wrap. I wrapped.
Why is
What
it
are your last thoughts?
time to wrap?
I don't know. That's how time works. It's linear.
Yeah, come on, Lex. Even though it's daylight savings this past weekend, and I'm completely thrown.
I was not expecting homonyms.
Ah.
I have not had enough coffee yet today for homonyms, sir.
Homonyms. Guys, what are your last thoughts about this movie?
My last thoughts on this flick is that if you are somebody who has been absorbing the horror genre or the midnight cult films all your life, it's fun. And honestly, we could use some fun in this world. And it's dark and it's weird for some, but not for Lex apparently. So it's on Netflix. Give it a shot. It's hour 40 of your life. And
it's even less than that. I think it's like an hour 25.
Yeah, and it's some fun people with some sweet moments and some really dark shit. Do it up. I like it. I really like it.
It's very...
Hey, Mikey, she likes it.
Oh no. I'm curious to go and check out some of the reviews because this movie was not super duper praised when it first came out, and I'm curious as to why that is because I would imagine that the target audience for this would dig it a whole bunch. Like, I had a real good time. I went in with admittedly low expectations, but I had a really entertaining hour 25 minutes. I would recommend it, especially if you're a horror fan. It's fun. Don't go in expecting it to be The Exorcist, or needing it to be Halloween or whatever. Throw in horror title here. Don't expect that it needs to be anything other than what it's doing, and I think it's a super super duper fun way to spend an hour 25.
Yeah, it's not lying about what it is. It's very upfront about what it is with a couple of twists that make it fun. And it's a good friends are over movie when you're with the right group of friends. This is a have a couple beers if you're the type and throw on something fucking weird and fun. That's if you are in my group of friends anyway. So that's my final thought. Yeah, Give yourself something weird.
Yeah.
Keep it weird.
Keep internet weird. My final thoughts as a not horror person and a coward baby boy.
It's like anytime you do interviews or some shit that's in the little lower third, it's gonna be Tauri Miller, not horror person and little coward baby boy.
As my official title says,
Twitter bio and shit.
I found it entertaining. There's it is kind of bonkers and balls to the wall, but there are a lot of fun bits. A lot of the character interactions were genuine, and I really liked the acting. I just remembered the bit where Bella Thorne has a touching moment with Cole where she's telling him her ambitions, and he's like, "You can still do it." And she's like, "You think I give a fuck what you think?" And I loved it. So I recommend it. I think it's fun if you like sit down and you go in, as Lex was saying, with like the appropriate expectations, and you just kind of accept that it's a popcorn movie. It's not going to change your life, but it's a fun ride.
It's super slick schlock.
Yeah.
But I don't mean that in a disparaging way. A lot of people hear the term schlock and they're like, "Oh, that means it's bad." That's not what I mean. I said it before. It feels like the slickest, most glossy possible version of a semi-exploitative late 70s horror movie that you might go see at a drive-in.
Yeah. Nice.
I completely agree.
So, Ruthanne, where can people find you if they want to chat with you or listen to your sweet, sweet podcast?
Oh my goodness. Well, you can find me either at Ruthanne Beverly on my personal Twitter. Same for Instagram. You can also find me at WikiShipDown because I run that account because my co-host does not know how to check our DMs. So find me there or email us at wikishipdown@gmail.com if you want to listen to us rag on some ridiculous Wikipedia articles. The other day, let's see, we've gotten some good titles like Sex in Space, How Does It Work? NASA has a whole article about it.
Huh.
Yeah, it's complex, turns out.
Oh,
or,
interesting.
Yeah, it's very complex. Or the evil, or the creepy twins that would had their own language. So there's a lot of interesting things. So find me in any of those places, and if you're interested in any of those topics, stop over at Week Ship Down. We just hit episode 100 and celebrated by not doing episode 101 because of a big old snowstorm in Boston.
But hey, congratulations on 100.
Yeah, big milestone.
Thank you. We're proud of ourselves for people, and the people that kept up with us were problematic at the beginning, but we still love you.
Great. Lex, where can people find you?
Not at Bloomingdale's for the foreseeable future, but on Twitter and Instagram at the Lex Michael.
Nice. And you can find me at Tauri J, TaurijAY. That's on Instagram and Twitter. You can find this podcast at Missing Outcast. That's MissingOutcast. If you would like to use your vocal cords to give us some feedback and some thoughts, especially about The Babysitter, you can hit us up on the Missing Out hotline, which is 978-MISS-OUT. That's 978-MISS-OUT. Call that number, leave a voicemail, let us know your thoughts. Thanks again for joining us, Ruthanne. We enjoyed having you.
Thank you for having me. I was actually genuinely worried you two would hate this movie, so I'm glad this was a good time.
It was fun. It was weird, but real fun.
Yay, that's what I aim for when I come on the show. Thank you again.
And cool. And thank you guys for joining us. This has been the retrospective that's introspective.
And now you have a new perspective. So.
Oh, man, that's another new thing from our show.
Oh,
yeah, bro. Look at that sign-off, motherfucker.
Cute as fuck. I love it. Air guitar.
A lot of pew-pew sounds.
Hell yeah.
Did you know a turkey puppet once ran for the presidency of Ireland? Did you know that meat once reigned from the skies of Kentucky? Did you know that there was an emperor of the United States for a while? Then listen to the Wiki Ship Down podcast.
We live in an age when the sum total of humanity's knowledge can be found in your pocket on a smartphone at any given time. But when that knowledge is peer editable, like it is on Wikipedia, what does that say about mankind? So follow us down the digital rabbit hole as we drink, joke, and curse our way through the random button on Wikipedia and see where our journey through humanity's knowledge takes us.
While you're at it, Follow us on all social media at WikiShipDown. I'm Ruthanne.
I'm Ryan, and be sure to find us every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to podcasts.